Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and welcome to Battletech. This is a game that I've actually been waiting a long time to play, and I finally managed to get code for it, so this is the earliest that I was able to do a video, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. So, for the people who are familiar with Battletech anyway, this will be, for you, a video game adaptation of the tabletop. Now, it's not 100% exact one-to-one adaptation because there are some changes that have been made to make it sort of work as a video game. So some of the values of certain things won't be exactly accurate, but the purpose of this video, I'm sort of aiming this more at people who haven't played Battletech, the tabletop, and maybe haven't played any of the MechWarrior games. Or anything else that's set in the universe, for that matter. So, what will this game be for you guys? Simply put, I think the easiest way I can explain this is that it's a lot like XCOM. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. So, there are two different phases in this game, and I will take you through them one by one. So, we're going to jump into the campaign now. And this is not just your sort of glorified tutorial, but it is a very nice introduction into the Battletech universe. So let's begin. Alright, here we are, and this is the screen that will greet you when you first start playing the campaign, or sort of. This is the Argo. This is a ship that you get pretty early on in the campaign after you progress through a couple of the story missions, and this is basically your home base. It runs pretty much the same as the bases did in XCOM, well, I'm talking mainly about the XCOM remaster here, the XCOM and XCOM 2, so this is where you manage everything, and there's a fair bit to get through, so bear with me on that. The basic premise of this is that you're in charge of a mercenary company, and you have to manage everything from your mech warriors, which are the pilots, and the mechs themselves. So I'm going to take you to the mechs first, because this is probably what you're wanting to see out of this. So this is still pretty early in the game, but this is the point in the game where it first starts opening up, and you can now have free reign of exploring around the place and taking on contracts as you wish. And these are the mech bays that we start off with. So we've got Bay 1, 2, and 3, and they can hold up to 6 mechs each. So, for those who are familiar with the franchise, I'm just going to open up, this is a Panther, this is a light mech, and I'm going to open the refit screen. So, this is a scene that should be quite familiar to anyone who's ever done anything with Battletech before, especially the MechWarrior games, because this is essentially your loadout. This is where you outfit your mech, and there's quite a bit of flexibility in every single chassis to build it how you want. And this will affect how they perform in battle, and of course, if you equip them with the right mech warrior, which has the right abilities, they can really excel. And every mech is going to be a bit different. They, for example, these are the inner sphere mechs, which are the sort of home worlds, if you will, as opposed to the clans, which are the outer worlds. That's a different part of the universe entirely. But what you will notice that's common among these things is that they have a limited amount of hard points. So right here you can see 1 out of 4, those are the energy hard points, as the tooltip very kindly explains there. And it can only mount up to 4 energy weapons on there. Right now we've got a PPC, which is a particle projector cannon. And it's basically a giant ion cannon. And that has its own stats associated with them, and every weapon performs slightly differently. So you can see all of these blue weapons are completely grayed out, and that's because these are ballistic weapons, which cannot be mounted on this mech. It has no hard points at all for it. So our hard points here are energy and missile only. So missiles will use ammunition, and whereas energy weapons don't. However, they generate heat, and heat is something that's a very big thing that you have to manage in combat. For example, you could put a bunch of particle, or you can just call them PPCs here. We can put a bunch of PPCs on here, but they do generate 40 heat each. So if we fire 2 of them, that's 80 heat. If we fire another one, that's going to be an instant shutdown, pretty much. And the mechs themselves do overheat and take damage from it, to the point where if they exceed a certain limit, they will actually shut down in combat, which is not what you really want to have happen. In addition, all of these limbs here can take damage separately in combat, so the amount of armor that you put on there, for example, this left arm doesn't have anything on it, so having 10 armor there is mostly fine, but having anything on this side means that you probably want to armor that up a bit more, because then it can absorb more damage. And all of these mechs, if they take damage, they'll have to be repaired, and that takes time and money, so that's a big thing up here. The amount of money you have, it's an important thing to manage, because the more that you have, the more you will end up spending, and that's something that you can actually see. So this is the whole management part of the game. You can actually see the finances here. Every 30 days you will have this deducted from your balance. These are your operating costs, and when that reaches 0, then you go bankrupt, and that is game over. So the main thing is really trying to manage your company all the way through the campaign and making sure that you can complete all of the story missions in time without going bankrupt. In addition, there are also ship upgrades that you can do, which will give your ship more abilities. Some of these will affect certain random events that you will encounter. For example, disputes between crew members, or issues with medical upkeep, or issues with the mech bay may crop up from time to time, and having some of these at your disposal will allow you more options to solve them later. So it's a good idea to have some of these upgraded, but some of these do get quite expensive. For example, an additional mech bay will allow us to have up to 12 mechs in total ready for battle, and gives us an additional 3 tech points, which are something I'll get onto in a moment. But what this does is it basically just lets us have more mechs available. And that gives us more variety for some of the missions, especially if some of the mechs are damaged and awaiting repair, then, you know, you have others that will be ready to go out into combat. Now, that's a very expensive upgrade, but it might be well worth it in the long run. As for mech, or rather tech points, tech points here basically allow you to complete tasks faster, so repairs, refits do take time, and the more tech points you have, the faster it will go along. And the same for medical. If your mech warriors are injured, medical points will be applied to them to heal them. That's sort of a simplified way of looking at it, but that's how this sort of runs overall. In addition, you also have the star map, which allows you to travel around the place, and you can see the different sectors of space that you can visit. And in this case, we do have a travel contact here, which we can go and visit. However, I don't really find myself using the navigation panel all that much just yet. That's simply because a lot of the contracts that you take, if they have travel associated with them, will just automatically travel you there, and everything takes time. So, overall, it's starting to look a lot like XCOM in terms of the management, and that's no coincidence. It is very, very similar. So these are the sort of contracts that you have available. This one, with this symbol that you can see here, requires you to travel to another system, and that will take 19 days, in-game days, to complete that travel, which can be of use to you if you have mechs awaiting refit or repair. You have mech warriors that are injured. It gives them time to complete their task before you actually embark on that contract. Once you arrive at that place, you do have some time to still be able to finish off whatever you need to do before you actually deploy. However, anything that takes place on the system that you are currently in will be an immediate deployment. So if I go here and negotiate a contract, then we will be taking that mission on immediately. So that's pretty much the way the game is played. You take on a contract, you can either go for more payment, or go for more salvage. However, these sliders, while they seem to counteract each other, you can also reduce that and increase your reputation with the faction instead, which allows you to have better payment for contract completion, and it also allows you better prices for things that you buy in the store, which is over here. So there's quite a lot to the management side of things and contract negotiation, but that's basically how the management side of the game is played. You do have a lot of things that you can do, and how you choose to run your outfit will determine what sort of mechs and mech warriors you can field in combat. But combat is also what we're here to see, and that is the second half of the game. So I'm going to pick up this contract here. I think I want to go for a little bit more money. We're not exactly short on money, but we are spending a lot, so I probably want a little bit more money, maybe not so much on the salvage. We probably will get that later on, but we'll go for a little bit more money this time, and then we can just finalize that and deploy. And here we go. So we can deploy a single lance, which is 4 mechs with mech warriors, and we can sort of drag and drop them here. Now, I have made a little bit of a mistake because my Centurion and my Shadowhawk over here are currently undergoing a refit. So I'm going to skip ahead till they are actually complete, and then we'll deploy on this mission. Alright, here we are. So this is the battle parts of the game. And it's been a bit tricky to record this. The game is a little bit glitchy when it comes to recording. It's just my recording software doesn't play nice with it. But yes, so this is a start after your lance gets dropped in. Now there are different mission types, I should say. But for this particular mission, this is a battle head-on. We just have to destroy an enemy scout lance, which is located over here. One very nice feature, you can click the objectives and have it zoom over there, and it also highlights them when you mouse over. Very, very useful. So we know they're going to be roughly over here. So I want to kind of get myself into a position where we can kind of intercept them. Now, my Centurion is the sort of long-range missile boat. As you can see, it's got a lot of long-range missiles there, and an AC2+, which is very nice for long-range kind of use. And before you've encountered any enemies, you can actually move with full freedom. And you can actually move more than one mech at a time. So this is the sort of prep phase, I should say. Get ourselves in any position we want to. And I'm just going to move everybody there. You can also get a nice dynamic combat camera. You can completely disable this. You can even set how frequently you would like it to appear. It's quite a nice little thing. It does have its moments of derpiness, but otherwise it's pretty okay. Now, I should point out there is a modifier on one of my characters right now. That little pause, by the way, is the enemy forces moving. They also have their turn to move. But Medusa right now has a modifier. He's in low spirit, so he actually has lower... I believe it actually causes morale to charge more slowly. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll find out. So we can get all of our units to move up. I think the Shadowhawk is actually my brawler, so I might actually have to move that a little bit closer. I'm going to jump over here as well. So we've got a Blackjack BJ-1, which is equipped with an AC2 and a bunch of medium lasers. So that's sort of a medium range support that we've got there, which is quite nice. So that one will be more or less supporting the Shadowhawk as they go in. But I don't want the Blackjack to take too many hits because it's not as tough. So I would rather the Shadowhawk move. The Centurion can kind of stay where it is for now. And that's our first enemy contact. So that's within sensor range. This faint blue line that you can see is the sensor range. But that's not our vision range because there's terrain and stuff to look at. In fact, you can actually kind of see it if I go close to the ground. You can actually see that that's over a hill. And that means that we don't know what's there, but there is something there. It's not close enough or within range for us to detect what it might be. So for now, I think we're just going to kind of stay where we are. Vindicator is more or less equipped for long range as well, so I'm going to move them up here. And the Blackjack, I'm going to move them a little bit closer to the Shadowhawk. So that's sort of our opening maneuver. Once the enemies are visible, there we go, those are the phases. So unlike games like XCOM where it's a sort of turn, the entire team makes up one turn, and the Shadowhawk's taking a little bit of a beating there. Each round... Oh god, that was a head hit as well, so my pilot's been injured in the first engagement. So the actual round takes place in phases. So you phase 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So total 5 phases. And that depends entirely on the mech and the mech warrior that's piloting them. So that affects the amount of initiative they have. So the higher their initiative, the faster or earlier they can move. You can choose to reserve, and that will cause them to move to the next phase. But that means the entire set of units in that phase will be reserved for the next phase. So it's sort of like waiting a turn, but there are some effects that can be beneficial if you do that. So in this case, we would very much like to begin this fight. So what I'm going to do is very quickly sensor lock the Locust, and that will get rid of these evasion charges. So these evasion charges here make things, let's just say it affects your accuracy. So you can see the part where it says target moved, there is a +2 on that every time they have an evasion charge. So in this case they've got 4, so that's a +8, meaning I only have a 40% chance to hit with these LRMs. So I'm going to center lock them, and that will get rid of 2 of their evasion charges. And it also forces them to remain revealed for the duration of that turn. We also have, it looks like LRMs coming in. And those are enemy reinforcements. So immediately, I think we have 2 Lancers to fight. So it's going to be a 4 versus 8 very quickly. So we need to take down this Locust as quickly as possible. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to move you forward. Get you closer. That seems to have revealed something over there. I'm going to switch off my AC2, and that will, because that's not really got a high chance to hit, and it's going to cause our mech to heat up. This is their heat gauge, by the way. So if it reaches this line here, they'll start taking damage. If it exceeds the entire bar, then they will shut down, which is definitely not what you want. So we're going to go with our medium lasers and SRMs.
Firing on target.
And you can see that's actually removed 1 evasion. So every time you get fired upon, whether or not to hit or miss, will cause those evasion charges to disappear.
What's up, boss?
Alright, I've got Harvester and the Blackjack over here.
Commander.
And we've got our Centurion.
Waiting for orders.
I think I'm going to fire with the Blackjack first. But I'm going to need to move them to a spot where they can actually do that. I believe this is probably going to be a little bit better, but that's going to be very close to the enemy reinforcements which are over there. So I think the better option is actually to jump away. So we're going to jump up here. That will give us 3 evasion charges, and I'll be able to fire at the Locust. So this should do some pretty hefty damage then. Yeah, that's knocked off its left arm. And that's the entire mech gone.
One less target.
So that's how you deal with a Locust anyway. But I don't know what's coming up next. And as you can see, they can fire at us from off screen because something was spotting us. Now they might not be able to do that, but we will have to wait and see. Our Centurion is in a good spot, so I'm just going to wait there. And we'll see what comes up. That's a mech. That is a Shadowhawk. I believe those are LRMs as well. So given that that mech has moved, yep, that's 4 evasion charges there. So you can see the movement really makes a difference. You definitely don't want to have a mech standing still for too long, unless they have a passive that benefits them. So in this case, I'm going to get my Shadowhawk to move over here. See if we can hit him in the side. This one is better built for close combat, but it seems a bit dangerous to go right up in his face at this point in time. But it doesn't look like we have particularly good hit chances at all, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. Landed some hits there, knocked off an evasion charge, but nothing to really write home about. And somebody's taking a shot with something over there. It might be an AC-10 actually, now I think about it, a single shot.
Standing by.
Which is a bit worrying because that is quite a powerful gun if it happens to land a hit.
Waiting on you, Commander.
Alright, I'm going to sensor lock the Shadowhawk, get rid of 2 more evasion charges. and then I should be able to use my Centurion to fire on him. So that's kind of what you got to do. You really have to manage not just your positions, but also your firepower as much as possible. So you can see there we've got now pretty good hit chances on just about everything, and so I'm expecting good damage from this. It's a good hit to the leg, and here come all of the missiles. That's critted as medium laser, so that's
Think I hit something good.
going to affect a bit of his firepower, but yeah, that's a good hit all round. Now you might notice as well, even though there clearly is something over here, there is only one enemy marker on this phase, and that's because that's the only one that we can actually see. So it's worth noting that if you don't have sensor coverage of the area, it's going to be a lot harder to know what your enemy can do in that particular phase.
What's up, boss?
Alright, so we've got the AC-5. We're not in range to use our medium lasers, so I'm actually going to move up, and that will allow me to gain more evasion, but it will put me in range of the others that are nearby, which is a little bit worrying. But that gives me a chance to use my medium lasers, so we're going to go with that. And sadly the AC-5 is missed, but that's a good hit to the internal structure. These orange numbers that you're seeing pop up is damage to the internals of the mech, whereas the white numbers are the armor. So when the internal structure HP of a particular part of a mech comes off, it will be destroyed completely. And so you do want to tactically destroy certain parts of a mech by aiming from particular directions. However, the parts that it actually hits is mostly random, unless you can directly choose it by calling a shot. And that's done by using the precision strike skill, or if the mech happens to be knocked down or in other circumstances, then you're able to do that.
Ready for orders.
So just imagine XCOM style aiming for the head, arms, or torso, or so on. That's pretty similar in that regard. So, right, we're going to turn off our... Actually, I don't know if I want to use the Shadowhawk for this, because it is a bit outside of its comfort zone there. See who else we have. We've got a Vindicator. But they do have guard up at the moment, so that will actually reduce damage. But it's only 25%. I might have a chance of knocking that right arm off. Also, these red lines that you can see here, this is the direction that the currently selected mech will attack from. So if it's both left and right, that means it's attacking from the front. If it's left and right over here, it means it's attacking from the rear. And yeah, the rest of it's kind of self-explanatory. But yeah, you do want to try and knock that off. So if I can hit that, that medium laser will come off. So they're limited to only their missiles and autocannon for medium range stuff. So it could very quickly cripple this mech's firepower if I want to. Alternatively,
Waiting for orders.
I could look at using my sensor lock on them, and that will give me a much better chance of hitting. However, this mech actually can't see them, which is a bit of a problem. So if I move the Vindicator up, then use my sensor lock. So those evasion charges will go away. We'll have a much better chance of hitting with everything else. Ooh, that was a very narrow miss. So those evasion charges are still working for me there. But I'm going to have to very quickly move that Shadowhawk again.
Yes, Commander.
Standing by.
So in this case, I could move myself forward and gain a little bit more evasion, which I think might be a good idea. We'll do that. Alright, that seems pretty good all round. Let's see what happens. And that mech is now unsteady. So stabilization, which is the yellow bar that you see at the bottom there, that is the stability of the mech. And of course, when it exceeds the bar, the enemy mech might be knocked down, which will not only injure the pilot, it will also lower their initiative for one round, because they will have to spend time standing back up again.
What's up, boss?
So definitely quite a useful thing to inflict on your enemies. Not so useful if it happens to you.
Aye, aye.
There goes that right torso and arm, so that medium laser is gone. It's still doing a lot of damage, and there goes the knockdown. So we can see the side torso destroyed means the pilot's been injured, but that knockdown has also injured them, so we have damaged them for 2 points there. And by default, all pilots have up to 3 hit points. So we might be about to kill that pilot if we manage to hit the head. So we'll see what we can do with this next turn. I don't want to move too far out of position, though. Got to be very, very careful with that. Alright, we'll jump over here.
Roger.
It's a little bit safer with the blackjack because we have the jump jets. But I wouldn't risk this with any other mech. So here we can call the shot. I'm going to go for the left torso. I could go for the head, but I only have 2% chance of actually getting that. So if I hit the left torso there, that damage will injure the pilot as well. So I'm going to go for that. I'm going to fire absolutely everything at them. I don't know. That's critted their AC5 though, but it hasn't destroyed that part. So they are going to stand back up again. But it won't take too much more to incapacitate the pilot, which is exactly what we want. Alright, here comes a Wolverine. Now these guys are a little bit tricky because they have a lot of armor. They also have a lot of weapons, so I will need to deal with them very soon.
Took a hard hit there.
Alright, here comes the Shadowhawk standing back up again. Now he is armless, but he's not harmless. So that move there is going to give him 2 evasion charges. And he is firing with the SRM, so that Shadowhawk now is
Standing by.
hurting us quite a lot.
Good to go.
Alright, let's see what we can do here.
Orders.
Now I could go for a melee hit. If I do that, we will be able to use that small laser. So we might be able to finish them off with a melee. That will do a pretty hefty amount of damage, and it will ignore those evasion charges. So I'm going to go for that.
Roger.
It's a very short-range move as well. And there goes his left torso and left arm. Pilot has been incapacitated, which is exactly what we wanted. And of course that means we might get some pretty nice salvage from him as well, because as I found out yesterday, apparently the salvage that you might get... Oh, that was a nasty hit from that AC-10. Definitely an AC-10 with 45 damage with that hit. But the salvage that you get depends on what you destroy. So if you destroy something, you're not going to be able to salvage it. So it's worthwhile taking out the pilots and leaving the mechs mostly intact if you want that salvage. Now I'm moving the Centurion because I have a feeling they're about to get flanked, so I do want that extra evasion. And I'm going to take that shot now. 65%, it's still decent chances for the LRM, so we should still do decent enough damage.
I've been sensor locked.
I should also point out there is an achievement for kicking an enemy while they're down. I believe it actually is kick them while they're down. Although don't quote me on that, I might be wrong about that. Alright, so now we've got our Wolverine here, which we're going to fire on with the Vindicator. So we've got our PPCs and LRMs. Overall, pretty decent stuff, but you can see here that we're about to hit the side of them. So we're going to do more damage to the stuff on the right side of that mech. Which I believe this is where their large and medium lasers are actually mounted. So if I can get rid of that, we can knock out quite a bit of their damage potential. So we're going to go for it. Ooh, and that's all the armor on that. There goes that arm and the right torso. And it's been knocked down because he was storing SRM ammo in that right torso and it exploded. So That is a pretty fair whack of damage that we just did to them. Feeling confident right now. But I do want to pull the Shadow Hawk back out because that left torso rather has been taking quite a beating. So we do need to mitigate that a little bit, especially since they do have the range on us. And you can see there that that right torso is taking a lot of hits, which is also where our SRMs are. So we don't want to let that be the case. The way that you can actually do that is by rotating the mech so they can only hit one side of it. As you saw with that Wolverine, I could only hit the right side of it. I couldn't target anything on the left. So you can actually sort of armor tank if you have enough. So let me just pull that up. You can actually see it. The left arm over here has absolutely nothing mounted on it, and it still has a fair whack of armor on it. So I could, in theory, rotate that to face the enemy, and they'll have to hit that first. So you can use redundant parts of the mech as a sort of shield if you know you're going to have to take a hit. And I know I definitely will be because he's been sensor locked, so it's not going to go well for him if we keep him there. Alright, so let's jump over somewhere else where we can maybe get some shots in. This looks like a good spot, but it might be a little bit too close for that AC5, so I'm going to just back him off just a little bit. We're going to maintain that evasion, and then I'll be able to finish off that Wolverine right there. So now that he's knocked down, of course, we have a chance to aim at any of it, but you can see we can't target anything that's already destroyed, so that's completely grayed out there. So I'm going to go for the torso there. It's also worth noting that the called shot percentage there just displays the percentage chance of hitting that particular part. The actual base accuracy will be what determines whether or not they hit or miss to begin with. So just by aiming at a particular part, it does not mean that you are guaranteed to only hit for that amount.
I'm taking internal damage.
So that melee hit has unsteadied us, which is not good for movement. We do lose the ability, I believe, to sprint. You can't do that while unsteady. So we can only move. And I believe if I move sort of that away, they will be targeting the right arm, which I believe is... No, it's the left arm that we want them to be able to hit. So if I turn that way, we'll get 2 evasion charges and they will be facing the other way. So they'll only be able to hit that left arm, which is kind of what I want them to do until they get a little bit closer. And I'm also going to brace so that front and sides will only take 50% damage. So that will help to recover the stability of the mech and hopefully keep us alive just a little bit longer. Alright, so the Vindicator's taking a few hits. We may need to move them to get some more evasiveness going. They have been stationary for far too long now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to here. Given that this is a long-ranged mech, we have the weapons to hit things much further away. So I'm going to maximize that range as much as possible. We can target the Wolverine, or we can go for the Shadow Hawk over here. I think I want to finish off the Wolverine, so we're going to focus fire a little bit here. That's a pretty good hit right there, but not quite enough to finish them off. I hope you guys have braced yourself for a long video, because this is a long battle. Not every battle will be this long, but you do have quite the chance of actually doing that. So we probably need to move ourselves. I don't necessarily want to lose that evasion, so I'm gonna jump myself over here. And we're going to go target that Wolverine again, and hopefully this is enough to take him down. I'm going to turn off that AC5 as well, save a little bit on that heat, and we'll just use the medium lasers for this. And that wasn't the hit I was looking for. I probably should have called the shot instead. But 4 evasion charges I think will be good. Yeah, you can see most of the shots are now hitting the left side, but it is hitting the torso a little bit as well. So that's not good. But yes, this is the point where I do want to start taking down some of these other guys as well. So the other option I have here is to go multi-target, which is a pilot ability, and that will allow me to make use of some of the other weapons and sort of spread that out a little bit. See, I'm hoping that this Wolverine anyway, if I can target him again, won't stand up to too many more hits, so I'm going to switch that over to target B on that as well, just to knock off some evasion on them, and hopefully do some damage with the LRMs. I might actually switch that one over to A as well, and we'll see what we can do there. And that was just enough to knock out that Wolverine. So of course the remaining shots going over to the Shadowhawk here. Not exactly a huge amount of damage, but we did manage to knock off that evasion, which of course he's going to get back now, but putting some of the pressure on them is definitely what you want. So that left leg is now destroyed. This mech is going to get knocked down, which is the first of pilot injuries that we don't really want to have. I mean, the Shadowhawk can stay standing for a little bit longer, but it is going to lose that these side torsos as well. And that means, of course, we are going to lose weapons on that too.
Good to go.
So that is definitely not what you want. So I'm going to jump my Vindicator over here. Hopefully that brings that Shadowhawk back into sensor range. And it didn't quite do it. But I might be able to sensor lock him. And that will bring him back up again. And that there is another Wolverine. He's looking to finish off my Shadowhawk that's knocked down right now.
Commander.
But I'm gonna put the hurt back onto the Shadowhawk over here with my Centurion. There's a lot of missiles flying to him. And the armor has definitely been stripped away from somewhere. Right, here comes another mech coming in. Yeah, they are definitely looking to finish off this Shadowhawk. I may need to get that pilot to eject, which is something you can do. You click that button and the pilot will eject. But it does mean their mech is out of commission for that entire mission, which is not necessarily the best thing. Alright, we can use our AC-5 here. Alternatively, I could move the Blackjack somewhere else. But I would prefer to do a jump, because that will give me extra evasion. Again, this is not what I really prefer doing with the Blackjack. I would rather they not be in direct combat. But with the Shadowhawk knocked out, we don't really have much of an option. So I'm going to put that hurt on the Shadowhawk again. And there we go. There's the left torso and left arm gone. And SRM ammo has been knocked out as well.
Heavy damage.
Good to go.
Alright, so let's stand up.
In action.
So, yeah. So if I use Precision Strike with Medusa, he is going to cost a bit more morale because of his low spirits trait, which is a temporary trait. Probably do want to move him, though. So I'm going to very quickly just move him over where he's got a little bit more evasion. Unfortunately, that means his front is going to be exposed. And he is moving slower because of a destroyed leg. And you can see there that that's now red out. Or that block is now red as well because of his damaged leg. So he's not going to be able to take too many hits. But I can hopefully put the hurt onto the Shadowhawk here. I'm gonna go for his right torso.
Locked on target.
And there goes his right arm as well. That pilot is injured. And knocked down, which should hopefully incapacitate the pilot. I don't know. There we go. So that's kind of how you do it. This is exactly what I was hoping for. So they've still got 2 mechs walking around up there. But I may be about to lose my Shadowhawk here.
Gonna need a medic.
So this is where I'm going to get Medusa to eject. His mech is pretty much done. But that may mean that he lives to fight another day, because he is one of my more experienced pilots. I do want to keep him. So he is going to get out of here.
Right. Ejecting.
But at least the first objective is done. Now we just have to destroy the enemy reinforcements. We're already 33% done with that.
Waiting for orders.
Let's see what we can really do here.
Good to go.
So again, I'm going to go for a sensor lock on that Shadowhawk there. That Wolverine is inching closer, which is a little bit of a concern right now. Of course, that means I get a good hit on the Shadowhawk here. All of the missiles.
Yes, Commander.
And hopefully our Blackjack over here is able to take a shot at them as well. Pretty decent hit chances. I wouldn't say they're great, but we can at least do some damage. Right, most of that evasion working for the Vindicator there, so a lot of shots missing. And one in particular was that AC-10, which was still a little bit worried about, or rather AC-5 I should say. Really don't want to take a hit from that.
Waiting for orders.
Alright, we can use our sensor lock again. But first I'm going to actually jump. Get myself out of the way. Get a bit more evasion going. And then I'm going to pop that sensor lock on the Shadowhawk again. And now that Wolverine, of course, is much closer to us, which puts the Blackjack in the direct line of fire, and I'm taking a lot of hits to that left arm.
What's up, boss?
Definitely not something you want to see. Okay, in this case I probably do want to move that Centurion. I'm going to see if I can just get my Blackjack out of the way first. So if I jump up here, that should give me a chance to fire at the Wolverine. And still maintain some of that evasion as well.
Firing all weapons.
And that was the AC-5 missing there. It's a bit unfortunate.
Standing by.
Now in this case we can get our Centurion to move. But I don't want them to be too close to the battle either. So it's a little bit tricky trying to figure out where you wanna go.
Aye, aye.
That'll only give me one evasion. But yeah, I'm going to take that shot at the Shadowhawk instead. all those LRMs.
Warriors, show 'em what you've got.
I mean, in some way as well, ejecting a mech warrior saves the mech, because the AI don't seem to really care about mechs that are inactive. And I'm pretty sure most players wouldn't either, but yeah, they don't really do anything to you, so you do kind of save the mech, even if it's heavily damaged.
Firing a full salvo.
Unfortunately, that Wolverine does have cover, so any incoming damage is going to be reduced. But he is still taking stability damage. I have a feeling that my Blackjack's left arm is about to go.
Armor blow through. Internal damage. Receiving you.
Okay. Yeah, that left torso has taken a hit. And that is also the left arm that the AC-5 is mounted on. Definitely don't want to lose that. I can just move myself over here. Hopefully the extra evasion keeps me alive just a little bit longer. And take the shot. I managed to get a shot on their head as well, so there's a pilot injury there.
What can I do for you?
And in this case I want to take that cold shot now on the Wolverine. I'm going to go for the right torso. We got 69% chance of hitting that. I think those are pretty good odds.
Special delivery.
Oh, that's a good hit right there. Right torso and right arm gone.
And like it.
Not quite enough to knock them over yet. But it has stopped them from using a couple of their main weapons, which is exactly what you want. This poor Blackjack is now just the main focus of theirs. The irony, of course, is that the Centurion actually has the most armor now, but it is the long-ranged one, which hasn't actually really taken a hit yet. If I'm honest, it's yet to actually take a hit.
Got it.
And now we can put some direct fire on these guys. And I do want to hit that Wolverine, because that last little bit of stability might actually go. It's a bit of a waste of LRMs though, because we don't really have much of a hit chance on that. But I think that'll be enough. We can make do. That should be a knockdown there. Oh, it's very nearly a knockdown. It's not quite one.
Good to go.
Alright, I'm gonna use you. In fact, I'm gonna jump you away first.
No sweat.
And I'm gonna get a sensor lock going on our Shadowhawk over here.
Got a lock.
We've still got our Blackjack to move out of the way, so they're gonna jump over to here.
Aye, aye.
That should give them 3 evasion charges, and then I will be able to take 1 shot. But we are running quite hot now. So I'm going to turn off a couple of these lasers, actually. I'm going to leave that one on. I'm going to turn these 2 off, because these only have 55%. And I might actually take a shot on that Wolverine instead, see if I can knock him down.
Firing.
That AC-5 hit should be enough to... Oh, that was a headshot that knocked the pilot out. Okay, I was not expecting that. But the one time RNG works in your favor, really. The Shadowhawk's coming up for a melee hit. That kind of hurts. We don't really have a brawler, because our brawler was that Shadowhawk that's now bailed out. I can go for a melee hit, 95% chance to hit. But, They only do 70 damage. And I'm not sure that's going to be enough. So we're going to hold off on that for now. I'm going to sensor lock them.
I've got a sensor lock.
That will allow my blackjack to fire.
Good to go.
And at the same time, I'm also going to melee hit them to get rid of that last evasive charge.
Engaging.
It's a good punch there.
Hit him hard.
And, wow, okay, that injured the pilot. Oh, I was not expecting that. The ammo explosion actually killed the pilot. Right there and then, I was actually expecting, something else.
Mission successful.
But there we go, that's a successful mission. See, the moment I thought I'd have to finish them off with the blackjack, but no, that melee hit was actually enough. But, yeah. What do you know? A successful mission. And of course, this is the post-mission report. We get to have a look at what you've got. You notice the reputation bonus there, and of course, destroying the enemy reinforcements got us an extra 20%. And this is the faction here. The Arana Restoration, we have +4, which I believe this is the main faction that you fight for. There's also the Mercenary Review Board, and that you increase your rating, which will get you better contracts, access to better pilots, and so on. But the next screen is where you really do want to look at, because this is also where you find out if your pilot has been killed. So if your pilot or mech warrior has been incapacitated during a battle, they may not actually die. In fact, there are some circumstances which can give them better chances of survival, but this is the screen where you find that out. So in this case, they've been injured, but they'll be out for 51 days. So that's pretty serious, but at least they do get a fair whack of XP. The Shadowhawk, on the other hand, is in a bad way. It's lost an SRM and an AC2. And all of the parts that were lost will need to be replaced, including the head, which is where you eject from. A lot of the other bits which have taken internal damage will cost money and time to repair, as I said. But overall, not a bad outcome. I will say, though, yes, it is a bit of a downside that this Vindicator didn't really get to fire much, even though it has a PPC attached to it. But it was more of a support in this particular case. But overall, not a bad outcome. And here we go, this is the salvage screen. So there's a lot of mechs that we fought that we can get some salvage from. Unfortunately, due to the contract negotiations, we have only one priority slot. Now, priority slot basically means if I put that there, that is an item that we are guaranteed to get. The rest of it will be randomized up to a total of 5 in this particular case. So, I do want to have a look at what we have here, because sometimes you get some unique weapons and equipment. In this case, not really much. A lot of SRMs, but yeah, nothing particularly fantastic here. So the main thing you want is Mech Salvage. If you manage to get a total of 3 in this case, then you will be able to assemble an entire mech from it. So the hope here being that we managed to assemble one entire Wolverine, which could be quite a useful mech. Alternatively, I could go for a Shadowhawk, which has also proven to be quite a useful mech as well. But that's the 2H. There's also the 2D variant. This is a completely different variant. And that will offer a slightly different way of playing. But in this case, I think I'm going to go for the Shadowhawk 2H salvage there, and we confirm that. And they've given us one Wolverine 6R part as well as another AC5. We actually have a lot of AC5s. And we've got the LRMs and SRM2s, which are, I guess, kind of useful. But yeah, the total value there is pretty good. 4.2 million in salvage is not bad. But there you have it. That is pretty much the entirety of Battletech, at least as far as first impressions go. And if you've made it this far in the video, congratulations, because I know this has been a very, very long video. But unfortunately, this is not a game that can be explained very quickly or easily. But at the same time, my final thoughts on this, it's a good game. I will definitely say I have enjoyed my time with it so far, and the campaign is definitely interesting. There's one thing I do want to mention, but it's difficult to show it because it only shows up during cutscenes and special events, but every so often there will be dialogue which has a yellow highlighted word. It's the same sort of yellow as this little corner piece here. But when you highlight over it, or you mouse over it, it gives you a tooltip which explains parts of the lore. So there are certain names that they drop, or certain, I guess, jargon that they use, and if you don't understand that, they usually explain it to you, which is what makes this such a good introduction to the Battletech universe, is that most of the lore that you need to understand, if you're interested, will be more or less explained to you. There are some technical issues with the game. Loading times can be a little bit long, but since the last update, before I made this video, it does seem like the loading times have improved quite significantly. There are still some biomes and maps that you can find frame rate issues on, but I believe that sort of thing will eventually be fixed. I haven't had a chance of trying the multiplayer just yet, so I can't comment on how good that is, but overall, this is a pretty in-depth, fairly strategic game for anyone that is, well, and it has any interest in turn-based strategy. If you're a fan of XCOM, in particular XCOM 2, if you're a fan of older turn-based strategies such as Heroes of Might and Magic, or even Wages of War and Silent Storm, this might be for you. The battles can be a tad long, and that's just because of how survivable everything is. There's not going to be a case of going out into battle and having your best squad member get one shot immediately, as you might expect in XCOM, but in this, the RNG might come back to bite you all the same. And given that there is permanent loss and permadeath of squad members and mechs, the loss of something truly special can still have the same effect as it does in XCOM. So I would say this is a good game if you have played those. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is Battletech. It's available on Steam, Green Man Gaming and Humble Bundle, of which I am partnered with as well. So if you want to pick it up and support the channel, you can do so using the links below. And thank you very much for watching. My name is Panzer, and I'll see you next time.